This is on Chapter 10, Cell Division, specifically mitosis. The next chapter, Chapter 11, will be on meiosis. I'll give you a second here so you can actually read the little cartoon. I really like it. All right, so the first question is, if we're going to talk about cell division, is exactly where the genetic information in the cell is stored. And it turns out that it's in the DNA molecule. And a gene, specifically, is a small segment of the DNA molecule that codes for a specific protein. And we often see these macroscopically as specific traits like hair color and tongue rolling and earlobes and so forth. And you can see in this illustration here, we've got a little sample of the DNA molecule here, and I've subdivided it into little pieces to say gene A, gene B, whatever. Obviously, there's many more genes on a chromosome, and the chromosomes are much longer than this, but this is just to give you some idea what's going on. And we do have something called the chromosome theory, which is one of my all-time favorite theories because it's so straightforward, and that is the idea that the genes are on the chromosome. So whither go the chromosomes, so go the genes. This is from the Human Genome Project website. If you want to see this website, you can click on that little globe right there, and it'll take you right to it. But just to give you some idea of what we're dealing with here, as of April 2003, they actually said that there are 21,787 genes that make up the human genome, or all the genes it takes to make a human. And those are going to be spread across 23 different chromosomes. So an average of about 1,000 genes per chromosome, which is something that's kind of important to keep in mind. Lots of genes on the chromosomes. Now, you probably heard this before. Half your genes come from your mom and half your genes come from your dad. If that were the case, this is pretty much what we'd look like. This picture is very disturbing because I was trying to make something to really show you what it would look like if you got half your genes from your mom and half your genes from your dad. But it turns out that Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie are basically the same person, same facial structure, same lips. It's just really bizarro. Anyway, you get the idea. So it turns out that in reality, what you do is you get all of your genes from your dad and you get all of your genes from your mother, both at the same time. So essentially, you have two copies of every gene, which means you have two complete sets of chromosomes. And this is called being diploid. So here's a picture. This is actually called a karyotype. And you can see in this case, this is for a human female, a normal human female, and you can see that she has 23 pairs of chromosomes. And you'll notice that they come in these lovely little homologous groupings, such that if you look at chromosome number 2 here, for instance, you'll see that the chromosomes are about the same size, and with the staining technique used here, you can see that the genes are approximately in the same place. And you can see that these are ranged from the longest chromosomes, chromosome number 1, down to the tiniest, which are chromosomes number 22. Now, those are called autosomes, and these are the ones that are not involved in gender determination. But we also have, in human female, we have 2 copies of the X chromosome, and these are the sex chromosomes. Here's the human male again. You have 22 pairs of autosomes and 2 sex chromosomes. In this case, males get 1 X chromosome and 1 Y chromosome. We'll talk more about why that Y makes people stupid in another chapter. Okay, so the term we're going to use here is diploid. And if a cell has 2 complete sets of chromosomes, it is a diploid cell. In human beings, there are 46 chromosomes, and we represent diploid by this little number right here, 2 to the n, where n is equal to the number of chromosomes in one complete set. So again, a little algebra here. If 2n equals 46, then obviously there are 23 chromosomes in one complete set. Now what I'm saying here is essentially that if I took one number 1, one number 2, one number 3, all the way down in either an X or Y, that's a complete set of chromosomes. And you have 2 of those. Okay. By the way, just some terminology here. Gametes are the sex cells, and we represent the sex cells as... The sex cells will haploid have only 1 complete set of chromosomes, which is why when an egg combines with a sperm, you restore the diploid number. And you can see the symbol here. The symbol for female is, of course, the mirror of Venus, and the symbol for males is the spear of Mars. Okay, so chromosomes occur, as we already said, in these homologous pairs, chromosomes that are about the same size and have the same genes, same loci. By the way, this is one reason that you can reproduce with any other human being on the planet of the opposite sex and produce offspring. So one chromosome of each homologous pair comes from the father and one comes from the mother. Another term here, locus, is the position of the gene on the chromosome. In other words, our loci on each chromosome are the same. And here's some charts from your book, which is kind of interesting here. This tells you the number of chromosomes. You can see a type of fungus called Neurospora only has 7 chromosomes. which is haploid, but obviously anything that's sexually producing, where you're going to get half the chromosomes from mom and half from dad, it's going to have an even number. You can see mosquitoes have 6 chromosomes, fruit flies have 8, honeybees have, if they have 2 complete sets, if they're diploid, they're females, 32. If they're only haploid, they're males, 16. Silkworms, 56. Some other things here, Mendel's garden peas, 14 chromosomes. Look at this, adder tongue fern, 1,262 chromosomes. And then down here in vertebrates, you can see that humans have 46, chimps have 48, dogs have 78. One conclusion you can draw from this is that the complexity of the organism is not exactly related directly to the number of chromosomes. All right, so are DNA and chromosomes exactly the same thing? Well, almost. Well, it turns out that actually chromosomes are made up of only 40% DNA and 60% of them are actually protein. And here's a really nice picture of some chromosomes. Of course, the color's totally fake, but it's kind of cool to look at here. And in this case, the chromosomes have been duplicated, so you'll see that this half of the chromosome is identical to that one. We'll talk more about that. That's the point of mitosis. So here's a little illustration from your textbook again that shows the organization of the DNA. You can see, first of all, the good old double helix here. And the double helix is going to be, this tube now represents that double helix. It will be coiled around these proteins called histone proteins. And then you can see, here's one of these histone proteins. You can see we've got a bunch of these. And then these guys are all grouped together. And then that grouping is actually wrapped around a protein scaffolding. And then there's a bunch of these protein scaffoldings on another scaffold. And then if you take part of that and a bunch of that, let's cross-section through the chromosome here, this is what a chromosome looks like. And by the way, chromosome literally means colored body. Chromo means color, soma means body, because these guys were discovered with a light microscope. And what's interesting is, until you get to prophase of cell division, you can't even see these guys. This just occurs as an indistinct mass in the nucleus of the cell. Okay, so unfortunately, the term chromosome is a little confusing because it can either be composed of either one DNA molecule or 2 DNA molecules together, depending on if the DNA has been copied or not. So again, an illustration here. This would show you one chromosome, and here's the other chromosome. This is one, and this is its homologous pair. In other words, we said the blue one might have come from the dad, the red one might have come from the mom. In the process of cell division, of course, we have to duplicate those, so when we get 2 cells, we can have the full complement of chromosomes here. And so now you can see that there's one dad chromosome. Here's the copy of the dad chromosome, and the mom chromosome's been copied. But unfortunately, I have 2 chromosomes here, 1 and 2, and over here I have 2 chromosomes, 1 and 2. So really we've got one single DNA molecule chromosomes and double DNA molecule chromosomes, but they're still called chromosomes, unfortunately. Now, what's interesting is when the DNA has been duplicated, it turns out that now each part of this chromosome has a name, and it's called a sister chromatids. But those guys are only called sisters chromatids as long as they're together. Once they split apart here, as we'll see in mitosis, they go back to just being chromosomes again. All right, so there's 2 ways that a cell could actually divide. First of all, and that's the topic of this chapter, is mitosis. And this is where you would start with one cell. And I'm using human chromosome numbers here as an illustration because, of course, humans are the most interesting things on the planet. Since, of course, I'm one, which makes them most interesting. But anyway, so you can see we've got a single diploid cell here with 46 chromosomes. And at the end of mitosis, you'll see I've got 2 cells, each of which also have 46 chromosomes. So what we're going to have here is one cell division, one division of the cytoplasm. And obviously somewhere in here we're going to have to duplicate or copy the DNA. The second way cells can divide is by meiosis. And in this case, you're going to end up with you're going to start with one diploid cell, but you end up with 4 haploid cells. And these cells will be sex cells, eggs and sperm. And so in this case, you can see that we would actually have to have 2 cell divisions. The first time we divide the cytoplasm, we get 2 cells. The second time we divide each of those 2, we get 4. But we still only have one duplication of the DNA. So we go, so you notice we have 46 chromosomes here, but the grand total here is only 92. And again, this is a process that only occurs in humans in very, very specific tissues, specifically the ovaries of females and the seminiferous tubules of the testes of males. All right, so this will end your introduction to DNA and cell division.